Imagine a world where the bombs never fell, where the armies never crossed the border, and the cities of China stood untouched by fire, blood, and despair. In 1937, a single decision would ignite one of the deadliest conflicts in modern history. But what if that decision was never made? What if Japan had held back, sparing China from invasion? The rise of Mao, the birth of Communist China, the reshaping of Asia itself, all of it could have been erased, rewritten, obliterated before it ever began. Stay with us, because we're about to journey into the world that almost was, a history of power, ambition, and destiny that could have been shattered forever. Before we dive deeper into this alternate history, make sure to hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and comment below what you think would have happened if Japan never attacks China. In 1937, tensions between Japan and China had reached a breaking point. The Imperial Japanese Army was ready to strike, driven by ambition, fear, and the desire for dominance. Cities burned, millions suffered, and the fate of Asia was forever altered. But imagine a world where none of that ever happened, where the decision to invade was never made. Without that invasion, China's internal struggles would have played out differently. Leaders like Mao Zedong might never have risen to power. Japan's focus would have shifted elsewhere, and the very map of Asia could have looked completely different. The ripple effects would have touched every corner of the globe, reshaping alliances, economies, and cultures in ways we can only speculate. Today, we explore a world that never existed, a history obliterated before it began. Stay with us as we journey through 4 parts, uncovering the consequences, the alternate paths, and the unimaginable future that might have been. 1937. Asia stands on the brink of a catastrophe. In China, the streets of Beijing and Shanghai are alive with daily life, markets bustling, children running through alleyways, merchants shouting prices. Yet beneath this ordinary rhythm, tensions simmer. The Imperial Japanese Army is mobilizing, its eyes set firmly on the Chinese mainland. The stage is set for one of the most consequential decisions in modern history. Japan's rise as a military power had been relentless. Political leaders, military generals, and strategists plotted expansion across Asia, driven by the twin ambitions of resources and prestige. China, vast and divided, represented both a prize and a challenge. Every step Tokyo took was calculated, measured against the potential cost of resistance, rebellion, and international condemnation. China, meanwhile, is a nation fragmented. Kai-shek struggles to consolidate power under the Kuomintang, attempting to unify provinces, armies, and loyalties. In remote regions, Mao Zedong and the communist forces quietly gather strength, preparing for the moment when national instability could tip the scales in their favor. The tension between these factions is palpable, yet all are united by a looming, unavoidable threat: Japan. In Tokyo, military strategists map out the invasion with precision. Plans are drawn on tables, cities marked for occupation, railways and ports identified as critical targets. The strategy is ruthless, the objectives are clear, and yet, even as orders circulate, a single moment of hesitation or reconsideration could alter the entire trajectory of history. For the millions of civilians living in China, the calculations of generals are invisible, but their consequences are immediate. Families wait for news from soldiers, cities brace for attacks, and entire communities stand on the precipice of destruction, unaware of the scope of what is coming. The international community watches closely. Foreign diplomats in Beijing send urgent messages home, reporters speculate on what may happen, and governments around the world measure the impact on trade, alliances, and global stability. The world senses that the events unfolding in China will not remain isolated, they will ripple across continents. But now, imagine an alternate path. Japan pauses. The orders to invade are never issued. Cities remain intact, trains still run, the rivers are unscarred by fire and destruction. This single deviation, the absence of action, would transform not just a nation, but the entire continent. the consequences for leadership, strategy, and global politics would be profound. Every historical actor, from generals to peasants, faces a world without the invasion. Chiang Kai-shek's decisions, Mao's rise, Japan's ambitions all shift under this new reality. The delicate balance of power, already tense, is now suspended above a void of uncertainty. History, as it actually occurred, begins to unravel. And so 1937 becomes a moment frozen between possibility and inevitability. The question lingers: could the rise of communist China, the conflicts that followed, and the reshaping of Asia have been avoided entirely? Or was the course of history, once set in motion, impossible to divert?
The Japanese armies, poised on the border, suddenly halt. Orders that would have sent thousands marching into China's cities never arrive. The invasion, meticulously planned for months, is called off. Streets that would have run with chaos remain silent. Factories hum, markets bustle, and rivers flow unbroken, untouched by war. In this alternate reality, Chiang Kai-shek faces a nation still fractured but unscathed by foreign assault. His attention shifts inward to uniting provinces and consolidating power. Without Japan to rally against, internal tensions intensify. Local warlords maneuver for advantage. The communists, instead of rising from resistance, remain in shadows, their momentum delayed, their narrative unfinished. Japan, too, redirects its energy. The imperial army turns to expansion elsewhere, to economic ventures, infrastructure, and diplomacy. Ambition remains, but without the immediate catalyst of war, the focus is less destructive. Asia watches Japan cautiously, sensing the empire's hunger, but unaware of the choice that has reshaped the continent's fate. The ripple effects spread quickly. International observers, diplomats, and journalists note the surprising restraint. Global powers, Britain, the United States, the Soviet Union, adjust their strategies, alliances, and military priorities. Without a Japanese invasion, China does not become a central battleground. Instead, the balance of power in Asia begins to shift silently, almost imperceptibly. Cities like Nanjing, Shanghai, and Beijing remain intact. Millions of lives that would have been lost, families displaced, and cultural treasures destroyed are preserved. The urban landscapes of China remain untouched, a stark contrast to the history we know. This preservation, however, carries a hidden weight. The political conflicts within China now play out in full without the unifying pressure of foreign invasion. Mao Zedong, the figure who would rise from the ashes of war, sees his influence delayed. His opportunity to harness national trauma never arrives. The communists remain regional actors, their path to power uncertain. The course of political history is rewritten, and with it, the future of China itself. For Japan, the decision not to attack changes perception abroad. The empire's image shifts from aggressor to cautious strategist. Economic resources that would have fueled the war are redirected, potentially altering industrial growth, international trade, and military preparation for the conflicts looming on the horizon. Every citizen, soldier, and leader experiences the subtle shockwaves of this single deviation. Choices made in boardrooms and strategy meetings ripple outward, reshaping diplomacy, alliances, and national ambitions. The butterfly effect is profound. One decision prevents immediate destruction, but sets the stage for entirely new conflicts and uncertainties. And so, the invasion that never was becomes more than a missed event. It becomes a pivot point, a historical fracture where one decision could have altered not just Asia, but the entire world. As we continue, we will explore how this single choice reshaped destinies and created a future unrecognizable to the history we know. By 1940, China has entered a delicate phase of self-determination. Without the devastation of invasion, Chiang Kai-shek's government consolidates power,
yet internal rivalries simmer beneath the surface. The communists, denied the crucible of war, remain regional actors, their rise delayed, their narrative unfinished. The balance of power within the nation shifts, uncertain, fragile, but unmistakably different. Japan's focus has turned inward. Investments in infrastructure, industry, and naval expansion redefine the empire's priorities. Ambitions remain, but the absence of immediate conflict allows for a strategic patience previously impossible. Tokyo watches the world stage, weighing opportunities and risks, its military might intact, yet its path to war postponed. Across Asia, the dominoes of influence fall differently. Southeast Asia experiences a slower, less violent expansion of Japanese interest. Local leaders negotiate, maneuver, and adapt, unshaped by the fear of conquest. The intricate dance of diplomacy, commerce, and quiet coercion replaces outright destruction. Culturally, China thrives. Cities that would have burned now grow, trade continues, and education flourishes. Society adapts to internal reforms rather than external threats, yet with this stability comes tension. Political and ideological struggles simmer quietly, waiting for the world's attention to return. The ripple effects extend beyond Asia. The United States and the Soviet Union respond not to a burning China, but to a continent of calculated restraint. Global alliances shift subtly. The Second World War unfolds along a different timeline, its theater of conflict redirected. In this alternate 1940s, technology and industry advance along new trajectories. Japan's domestic focus accelerates industrial growth, while China, spared destruction, cultivates innovation without the interruption of war. The future of both nations diverges sharply from the historical record. Every decision, every delayed conflict reshapes Asia's destiny. Leaders who would have been forged in crisis now find themselves navigating a world of quiet uncertainty. Generations are born into lives unscarred by immediate war, yet marked by the subtle tension of unrealized history. And as the 1940s progress, the question looms: could this restrained path have spared Asia from decades of suffering? Or would new conflicts emerge, equally devastating, from a world that never experienced the invasion that could have changed everything? By the 1950s, Asia has become unrecognizable. Without Japan's 1937 invasion, China develops along a markedly different path. Cities remain intact, governments consolidate quietly, and the communists never rise to power on the back of national trauma. The ideological landscape of the continent shifts entirely, leaving space for alternative political forces to emerge. Japan, free from the drain of war in China, focuses on regional influence through trade and industry rather than occupation. Its military remains formidable, but its image on the world stage is less aggressive. Economic expansion rather than conquest defines the empire's ambitions, subtly altering global perceptions and diplomatic relations. The absence of invasion reshapes global conflict. The Second World War unfolds differently, with Asia's major battlegrounds redirected or diminished. Alliances shift, strategies change, and the post-war balance of power takes an entirely new shape. Nations that historically suffered under Japanese occupation instead navigate a future of tense diplomacy and cautious trade. Cultural, technological, and societal consequences are profound. China's cities grow uninterrupted, education and commerce expand, and the collective psyche of its people avoids the trauma of war. Across the continent, populations experience stability without destruction, yet they face the subtle tension of unresolved internal divisions. Every ripple of this alternate 1937 touches the world beyond Asia. Europe, the Americas, and the Pacific all respond to a Japan less embroiled in immediate conflict, while Asia's internal struggles unfold without the unifying force of national emergency. The global stage becomes a different chessboard, one shaped by restraint rather than destruction. Ultimately, this world is both familiar and alien. Asia prospers in unexpected ways, yet uncertainty persists. The history that did occur is erased, replaced by a narrative of paths untraveled, of decisions deferred, and of destinies rewritten. One question remains: would this world have been better, or would new crises, unseen, have risen from the void left by an invasion that never came? A single decision in 1937 could have reshaped Asia forever. Cities spared, leaders delayed, destinies rewritten. What if history had taken this different path? Would peace have prevailed, or would new conflicts have emerged from the shadows? If you've been captivated by this alternate world, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and comment below. What do you think would have happened if Japan never attacked China?